Hey, and welcome back to the number one podcast in the world, the Cellarcast, episode 182. Okay, I'm gonna brace you guys right at the start. This is a busy episode, because there were like 3 different, what are we calling them now? Trailer shows? Reveal shows? I think trailer shows, ad shows. Let's just call them ad shows. Let's come up with something very very condescending to call them. There was 3 of them within the last week and a half. The Sony State of Play, okay, wait, hang on. Were there 3? There was the Sony State of Play, there was the Xbox Game Showcase, and then was there a third thing? No. There were only 2, but it felt like 3. Dear Lord, it felt... Oh, the Summer Games Fest. There were 3. I watched that. I watched that happen. I'm also gonna warn you guys. This is a fighting game episode for the most part. I'm just looking at my notes for what I want to talk about. Most of the stuff I'm interested in from these shows is gonna be fighting game stuff. But that's what you sign up for. But I think a lot of it hits on some pretty interesting history. So we had no questions from last time, and I'll, to remind you, if you have a question that you'd like me to answer about, most things, you can leave it down in the comments below, and I will, answer it next time. So, other than that, I'm just gonna jump straight into it, because there's so much stuff to talk about. So, first of all, I believe this was in the State of Play, Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. So, Mortal Kombat has had this, because it's owned, technically, by WB, they have this annoying kind of EA thing going on. I always have a pang in my heart when I think about EA's library of classics. I mean, go back and watch my the Golden Age of EA video. Like, super important, foundational, well-aged games. There are so many games from that video, from 1983, like the first 10-ish games that they ever published, that are like still really fun today. They hold up really well. They're still fun and cool and interesting. And I'm just like, man, why is there no modern way to play Mule? Why is there no modern way to play Archon? Or Murder on the Zinderkneif, or even, what were some of the other good ones? I don't know, Hard Hat Mac. You know, why is it so hard for them to release this stuff? And mainly it's because the people who make decisions don't really care that much about keeping their stuff in rotation. WB, as a big Mondo corporation, have that same kind of carelessness, I would say, with the handling of, at the very least, the Mortal Kombat Legacy. Everything, it's weird. Every single MK game that comes out has the classic skins that are in DLC, or they're unlockable or whatever. They've all got the throwbacks. I mean, MK9 in a lot of ways redid a lot of the MK3 designs. MKX had those weird looking MK2 ninja outfits. They all have these throwback nostalgia costumes for all the classic characters. But there's a weird amount of negligence for the series' actual, those games. It was pretty nice to see a lot of the 3D era characters come back in MK1. But as for, actually playing the games... You've pretty much only ever had, literally going back to original hardware, or playing on emulator, or, something like Fightcade, maybe, if you want to play online. Just, very limited options, and none of them are really, easily accessible, I would say. There might be something on, a PlayStation store. Maybe there's a digital download. Actually, I don't know. The Legacy Collection, I keep wanting to call it the Classic Collection. I don't know why they didn't call it the Classic Collection with a K, but it's the Legacy Collection, and it's got a good lineup of games. I will say a good lineup of games. It's mainly covering the arcade era and a couple of the handheld games, which I find very amusing and I actually like quite a bit. So MK1, 2, 3, 3 Ultimate, 4, and then like 3 of the Game Boy games. There's like, what was it, Tournament Edition, which I think is just like a crunched down MK3? I think. The Deadly Alliance on Game Boy. Not Deadly Alliance, you know, the actual console version, just the Game Boy version. And what was it? Did I already say Tournament Edition? There's like a third one there, like MK Advanced or something like that. So for me, I think the two biggest releases, the two biggest names in this collection for most people are going to be MK2 and 3. Personally, I've never actually played MK2, but I know a lot of people like it. It's interesting to see how much experimentation they did within those first 3 games. Honestly, 4 games. MK has always changed wildly between versions. 2 and 3 play radically differently. 2 is much more of like a normals game. Like, you hit a lot of normals, you know, occasionally you do a special, maybe to, like, move around or something like that, a lot of mobility stuff, or a projectile. But MK3, specifically UMK3, is a combo game. So I can't speak too much on MK2. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that, so that's cool. I would be most interested in playing UMK3, because, by the way, not just are they getting re-released, they're getting re-released with rollback netcode, baby. We're in the modern era. We are finally in the modern day, except for Tekken, I guess. I really dig MK3. That is, dude, okay, I'm a combo game guy, right? Like, a lot of my tastes were formed by some of the early fighting games that I played, like Skullgirls or Plus R or something, or this kind of zany anime shit, right? And for me, a game with a really cool combo system, I just love sitting in training mode. It turns me into such a training mode guy. Like, I get kind of bummed if I pick up a fighting game and there isn't a lot of stuff to do in training mode. I'm trying to remember the last one I picked up that was like, yeah, well, you know, you rock, you know, it's not a lot of crazy combo stuff. And then I'm like, oh, well, I kind of wanted to just, like, sit in training mode for a while and just figure out fun stuff to do and just spend, like, an hour doing that. And UMK3 has such a particular way of the way the combos work and the way the juggle system works and the dashing in between, like, your hits of your juggle. The way that everything combos together in such an intuitive way once you understand how each of your moves, like, affect the opponent in the air. And, like, dude, it is so much fun to just do, like, smoke or reptile combos. Who else has really cool stuff in that game? Why can't I remember Hat Guy? Why can't I remember the guy with the spinny hat? It's not Liu Kang. It's Liu Kang's friend. I'm gonna look up Liu Kang's friend. Kung Lao. Yeah, it came right up. Kung Lao has some really weird stuff where he has, like, this dive kick special in the air, and you can, like, juggle them into the air and then jump up and, like, do an air norm, like do a jump kick into the dive kick and then land, and then they're still in the air, and then jump up and do it again. And it feels so fun. It's such a fun game. Being able to go online and play it with rollback in, like, an official capacity is such a cool idea to me. Also, really cool detail that this is it's not just a bunch of ROMs slapped together into a single executable. It also contains some real historical stuff. There's design documents, which is really cool. There's video documentary, like, work in progress things. There's concept art. It's an actual, it feels like a proper appreciative anniversary collection, or I don't even know if there's an anniversary going on. It feels like, yeah, that's what I would say. It feels like there's this aspect of also being like a little mini museum, which is these types of releases are a great opportunity to do. And also, I'm really happy that they included those weird not mobile games, handheld games, because like, yeah, they're all crunchy and weird, and they probably don't play great, especially compared to like the console or arcade versions. But I think that those are parts of history, you know, that are worth having around. Like, okay, maybe you're not gonna want a mainline Deadly Alliance on the, like, what was it, Game Boy Color or something, but having it around just so that you can go back to it and say, huh, what was this like? Because for a lot of people, like, look, I grew up on the DS, right? And I didn't have like a home console for a while when we eventually got a Wii. And nowadays I feel so spoiled in that I just kind of feel like I can play everything just because so much stuff is on PC. Emulation is so open now, right? And so much stuff also has, you know, stuff like this, which are, you know, re-releases or ports. And even if something doesn't work very well, there's often mods that can kind of improve the performance and all that. And a lot of people didn't grow up like that. I didn't even really grow up like that. You know, I remember these videos. I remember these videos that people used to make, which would probably sound super quaint to a kid nowadays, but it would be not even like fantasizing about games that could exist, like Super Mario meets Sonic versus Super Mario versus Sonic. It would be like fantasizing about ports of games, ports of console games for the handheld that you own. It would be like some 12-year-old, 11-year-old kid would make a mock-up box art, and it was like Super Mario Galaxy should be on the Nintendo DS, and it's just like a mock cover, you know, crunched down into the DS box size. The original cover on like the Wii, crunched down into a DS box. And that was a very real thing. A lot of people grew up on that, including me. I would play ports of perhaps questionable value, quality. You know, I played a lot of Lego games on my DS, baby, and it was awesome. It was so cool. Like, if I was gonna play, what was it, the complete saga, Lego Star Wars, the complete saga today, obviously I would go for the PC version or whatever, you know, whatever version that would be on Steam. But like, I don't know, it's like a thing that a lot of people experience for historical purposes, you know. I wish, so there's a couple, so the one glaring omission in this list of games would definitely be MK Trilogy. I don't know if they'll include it. I've heard some people say like, well, you know, Trilogy is kind of just UMK3 anyway, but like not exactly, especially not when you like really get down into the nitty gritty of playing them competitively, which I know is a very niche, nerdy thing. But it actually, on that front, what's interesting about MK Trilogy, the whole idea, it was sort of like the original. It was like the Everyone Is Here game. It was meant to be a big wrap up for the classic Mortal Kombat arcade games. Technically, MK4 is still the arcade era. It was on arcades. But Trilogy was really meant to be the classic, like, end of the classic 2D era. Big wrap up, put every single character who's ever been playable, and I think maybe new ones as well, in there. But weirdly enough, because it was a console-only game, it was kind of meant to serve as like, hey, here's a capstone for people who, you know, are console owners and maybe weren't able to play all them in arcades. Here, it had two versions, the N64 and one on the N64 and one on the PS1. And because of the technical limitations of those systems, the games they actually work significantly differently. From stuff like characters like Shang Tsung, how his transformations work and how much they slow the game down, to I think Chameleon has the same thing with like the different moveset swapping. Maybe I don't quite remember. But like I think even more importantly and most interestingly, like literally the frame data is different between the two versions. The frame data is different between the N64 and PS1 versions. So some characters are literally in different tiers depending on console, which is such a wacky thing to me, and is very Mortal Kombat. You ever want to hear some crazy shit? Go watch PND K and M. Very odd channel name, but it's PND Ketchup and Mustard. Go watch their video on the competitive, what was it, the competitive history or their competitive retrospect on Mortal Kombat Armageddon, where you have like combos that only work if your resolution is a certain is at a certain setting. Like just wacky stuff. So it would be nice to get some. So what's interesting then is that even specific, I would say in the classic MK community is sort of split between sort of like 3 different games, which is UMK3, and then the 2 versions of Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and some of them are more popular in other regions than others. Like in Argentina, they'll have a big, I don't remember if they're the N64 or PS1, but they'll prefer one, you know? It would be nice to have a version that of those games in a collection, which I don't know what you could do to unify it, but at the very least just to give both options. Also, it would be really interesting to have some kind of third version that like did not have the technical limitations. I'm sure there's gotta be a way. It's gotta be tied into some kind of something, right? Could you take some of those limitations out so that like maybe the frame data is, I don't know what you'd call it, intended? But yeah, it really cool collection. I'm glad that it's here. I've yapped about it enough, but I definitely I would at least check it out. Don't know about price, or I don't remember if they had a release date, but yeah, Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. Second, speaking of re-releases and remasters, Final Fantasy Tactics is getting a remaster. Now, I cannot claim to have played Final Fantasy Tactics the original. I played Tactics Advance, which was on the Game Boy. Advance is a little bit more of a lighthearted, so it's a little more kiddie version, but I really liked Advance. I really dug Advance a lot. There's a reason that people, so from what I understand, because I actually have played, I've played a little bit of Tactics. I didn't get super far into it, but I played a little bit of Tactics out of curiosity. And gameplay-wise, they are very similar. It's the same style of gameplay. Advance, I recall, added a couple more. I believe, honestly, from what I've heard, people kind of hold Advance in slightly a lower regard than Tactics, which probably means very good, bodes very well for Tactics, because I really loved Advance when I was in like middle school. Yeah, it's a classic. We literally get the term tactics games basically from FF Tactics and maybe XCOM, I guess. But this style of grid-based, turn-by-turn, tactical, strategic combat, where you've got all these units with different roles and jobs and stuff, and it really flexes Final Fantasy's job system, which I think is one of the more, I would say, iconic isn't really the right word, because there's more games that don't use it than do use it. But one of the first things I think of genuinely when I think of Final Fantasy, at least from a gameplay perspective, is, oh man, all that cool job stuff that some of the games do, right? I've always loved the job system in Final Fantasy games. And Tactics just has there's so many cool, it's like you have the goddamn like arithmetician or something, and they're doing like calculations that buff your your teammates' stuff, and it's such neat ideas for jobs and stuff like that that I think would only fit in a game like this. Just really satisfying fun. You get to like progress your units and like upgrade them and give them new. I think you get, well, they progress to like more advanced versions of jobs and stuff. It's just a really cool game. I would totally recommend checking out the remaster. Apparently, from what I read and what they put out, there's actually two versions, which I think is always a great move. There's the classic version, which is the classic. It's kind of like as close to the original experience as possible, and I'm sure with some differences. And then there's the remastered version, which has like I think some upscaled textures, probably resolution, sound, and then as well the improved upon localization from the PSP port, which was called Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions. So kind of a similar thing that they did with the pixel remasters for some of the other classic FFs, although they redid a lot of the graphics for the pixel remasters. I'm not actually a huge fan of the redone graphics. Other than that, though, taking the classic game, polishing it up a bit, using the superior translation, and setting it off. So yeah, definitely check that out. Now we get into the craziest, weirdest thing I have seen in a minute. Marvel Tokon, fighting spirits, fighting souls, something like that. So I woke up from a nap. I literally put out the most recent video, which thank you so much to the crazy reception that video's gotten. Maybe you're listening right now and you discovered me from that video. I got like a surge of people subscribing to the podcast, funny enough. I put out the video on I think Wednesday, something like that, and then I just like took a bunch of naps. I just slept for the whole day because I was tired. So I wake up at like 3 p.m. or something, seconds after the state of play is finished, and I wake up to a message on Discord from someone in a server saying ArcSys is making a 4v4 Marvel game, and I went, what? No, what? Hang on, am I awake? Did I read that right? I was like rubbing my eyes, going, no, that didn't happen. What? Yes, you heard that right. So this is there is a long history. I don't know if you're not into fighting games or specifically following like the meta narrative of the fighting game side of the games industry, this is a really fascinating development in the history of the genre. So when you say Marvel fighting game, some people might think of X-Men Mutant Academy. Those would be 0 people. Everyone thinks of Marvel vs. Capcom. It's one of the most, I'd say, iconic fighting game series. Specifically Marvel 3, I found over time has an incredible amount of like cultural staying power. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Okay, I've noticed a lot of like online artists were super inspired by Marvel 3. I remember kind of like being around and sort of, I never used Newgrounds as a kid, but when Marvel 3 came out, I remember just like they loved that game on Newgrounds. There were so many animations, you could find so much fan art and stuff like that. Marvel 3 is like this really enduring game to a lot of people. I think it has to do with just the visuals and the characters, and it's not quite the same smorgasbord as Marvel 2, but it has such a boldness to it and so much style. I think Aiding's really good at that kind of style and making characters feel like they kind of should feel, if that makes sense, that it just sticks in people's minds. And you've people always associate Marvel with Marvel versus Capcom. And then MVCI comes out, Marvel versus Capcom Infinite. Infamous botch. And looking on it now, especially with Tokon, it is so... I think one of the biggest tragedies of that game is that it is a victim of timing. A while ago on the podcast, I talked about going back to check it out just like in training mode. Because I'm a training mode guy. I just like finding funny, neat little combos, right? And just experimenting with that game and then playing some arcade mode and stuff. I was like, man, the biggest tragedy is that this game's actually really fun. It plays so well. The characters, that game has some of my favorite versions of those characters in fighting game form, like gameplay wise. They are so cool. Like I am, it's a 2v2 game. I wish it was a 3v3. I wish it was a 4v4 because I can't decide on two characters to play. There's so many cool characters in that game in a way that even Marvel 3 like didn't really appeal to me, where I'm like, there's only like one or two characters I really kind of dig. MVCI suffered from, I say timing. It was basically like, it's kind of the nightmare scenario of brand integration, or what would you call it? Brand synergy. That's probably the right term. That was at a time when Disney Marvel was really coming down on Capcom's development team to make sure that if they were making a Marvel game, it was going to be like the movies. You better make it like the movies. This is also before they got the rights back via acquisitions and buyouts and stuff to the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. So there's no Fantastic Four and there's no X-Men characters. And genuinely, I'll be real, I think that if there was no Tom Holland Spider-Man like cross collaborative deal between Sony and Disney, I don't even think Spider-Man would have been in that game. Like, legitimately. I don't even think Spider-Man and Venom would have been in that game. I think they would have been that spiteful. So infamously, Marvel also tried to de-emphasize. So they literally, like, they basically wrote out the Fantastic Four from the comics practically for, like, a little bit. It's essentially trying to... Oh, they tried to push the Inhumans as the new X-Men and stuff. They're like the new kind of mutant replacement. It didn't work, right? But they were doing it to literally try to devalue those brands so that they could more easily buy them back. And Marvel Infinite got caught in the crossfire of that. So just, it had this really weak roster. It had this ugly art style. Man, like, I was looking at it recently, and you forget just how ugly that game is until you look at, like, Ryu on the title screen. You're like, God, this game is ugly as sin. And for all of that, like, a lot of the game's biggest problems were visual and roster based. And for all of that, they managed to put together a really fun game in spite of these hurdles, right? The gameplay team was really cooking with Marvel Infinite. You should go check it out. But alas, it was legitimately just so unappealing in the way that a fighting game has to be appealing, which is characters and visuals. Visual feedback and information and the look of the character and the art style is so important for a fighting game, right? Graphics do matter. I would say more accurately, the visuals matter. And the characters you're playing as in a character-focused game, right? So now, Capcom is kind of back on their feet in the fighting game division. They were kind of in their quest to pull themselves out of the slump of, I would say, the 2010s era, like, let's appeal to the West, quote unquote, the West. That is America. They were kind of fixing up, rehabilitating, reworking different parts of the company. You know, they've always had this sort of multiple team structure where different teams work on different franchises or sometimes genres and stuff. Like they have a fighting game division essentially, and so it's like, okay, let's make New Devil May Cry. Let's kind of not reboot, but let's get like a fresh start on Resident Evil. Let's make a new Mega Man game. Like let's brush up all these things. And the one thing that they still had to work on, because Street Fighter V was still in active development. I mean, it lasted like 7 years. Active support, I should say, was the fighting game division. Like let's take a really good crack at it with SF6. So they come back with SF6. Everyone loves it. It's a great game. And then they start putting out these collections. And there's the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. Everyone's like, holy shit. Oh my god, are they repairing the relationship? Could they make another Marvel vs. Capcom game? Could we get Marvel 4, like a true Marvel 4? And then Marvel Tokon announced an Arc System Works joint. And suddenly, certain things get weird and other things start to make a lot of sense. So first of all, this feels like a huge departure. If you say Marvel fighting game, the first thing people say is, oh, with Capcom, right? Wouldn't that be the first choice? And genuinely, I would love to know. I am so curious as to whether or not, like, who did they go to first? Did they go to Capcom initially? Was it something like they went to Capcom, they approached Capcom initially, but Capcom was all hands on deck with SF6. And they were like, okay, we'll look somewhere else. Because this was facilitated by Sony, right? I mean, they own Spider-Man. They're kind of interested in the brand, the Marvel brand. Did they then go to Arc System Works and say, hey, you guys you're kind of hot right now. This probably would have been around the time Strive came out or a little after it, right? So they were just coming off of like a 1-2 punch sort of Dragon Ball FighterZ and Guilty Gear Strive, two massively successful games. Strive obviously less successful than Dragon Ball, but for an original property and the Guilty Gear series, huge success, like the biggest success they've ever had of like a completely ArcSys owned game, right? So they're kind of like hot, and there's suddenly this big wave of recognition for Arc System Works games because they've sort of been this underappreciated underdog for like decades, right? And then was it like, oh, okay, you guys are like the next. Is it like we consider you? We're interested in at least a 2D game. I don't know if Bandai Namco would do a 2D fighter, but do we consider you the second biggest name now in 2D fighting games? Huge glow up. And then I guess they just got to work on it. And when I was when I was just describing all of this stupid brand synergy stuff with like, you got to make it like the movies, and you got to have a cinematic story mode. Although I think that might have been pushed more by Capcom. They were really into that at that time. They were trying to be Mortal Kombat. But then you get to Marvel Tokon, and what a departure, man. Going from Iron Man has to look like Robert Downey Jr. to Iron Man is going to look like a Gundam. He's going to look like a Gundam. Miss Marvel is going to be there, and she's going to look like an anime girl with big moe eyes. And Doctor Doom he kind of just looks like Doctor Doom, They didn't actually do that much. I love the fur cape, though. Or the fur coat on the cape. I think that's a great... Marvel Rivals, I think, has a similar design for Doom. I love that. It feels like if you were going to add anything to the classic Doom design, that feels like a really nice little accent. Makes him look a little more like... I think it kind of puffs up the regality a little bit. I think it's a great little touch. But you've got Ghost Rider. People were like, oh my god, Ghost Rider just feels like a Kamen Rider character. And they did this little dev, like behind the scenes, how did this happen video right after the reveal. And the person from, I think, PlayStation is saying, like, essentially the way that they are relating the story is Arxis came back with the initial concepts, like maybe art, maybe a model or something of like Iron Man. And they said, yeah, well, this is great, but it is, it's Iron Man, and we want you, it feels like you are trying to stick to a traditional idea of the characters. But what we want you to do, and he literally says this, we want you to make your version of the Marvel characters. Like, they literally ceded control over to the artists at Arxis. Obviously, I'm assuming they're approving and they've got final say on it. It's not like they're just completely allowed to run wild. But the fact that, like, they then come back with, like, Gundam Iron Man, and they go, literally, the way that he explains it is, we were like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what we want you to be doing. Like, that's crazy. A few years ago would have been unthinkable. I guess now it's a little more understandable, maybe it's not as surprising, because Marvel Rivals came out recently, and that has, I wouldn't say like super, it's different. It's definitely like its own art style. Some of the characters look a little bit different, right? But honestly, for the most part, I think Marvel Rivals is actually fairly close. It's got like the tech suit thing going on, with a lot of the characters. But for the most part, it looks like something that could have easily stepped out of an actual, Marvel comic, or maybe a design in one of the movies or something. You're never going to see Gundam Iron Man in an MCU film. Probably not, Well, he's fucking dead now, so probably not. Maybe Ironheart. I don't know. Maybe Ironheart. But not Tony Stark. The other thing is that gameplay-wise, when I said some things made a lot of sense, what I'm talking about is, so how Strive had that 3v3 mode that was like a weird tag thing with assists, and it was just fucking chaos, really goofy chaos, which honestly I think is a good mode to have in the game, just for like sheer funny factor. I remember thinking, I might have even said it on the podcast a while ago, but I just remember thinking, man, this is a lot of effort they're putting into this. Which is funny because, they already did fighters. They already have a 3v3 game. It's interesting that they're putting so much time and development effort that they're literally like delaying other stuff so that they can work more on this 3v3 mode. And now this comes out and I'm like, oh. They were pushed. When you look at the chaos of Strive 3v3, and then you look at 8 characters on screen in Tokon, you go, oh, okay. So that was like kind of a stress test. In my mind, I'm thinking that they are using that as like an experiment. Because honestly, you can see some Strive tech in there. There's stuff that straight up looks like, maybe it's like a launcher button, like from Marvel 3 or something. And you kind of associate MvC games with having the launcher into the jump up, auto jump up and like do a big combo in the air, right? The aerial rave stuff. But like, man, some of the stuff in Tokon looks a lot like a dust combo. And also it has like Strive wall splats and some kind of area shift wall break mechanic, basically. Like there's multiple different stages to fight on within a single stage. You like knock the opponent into somewhere else, which I think for a superhero game is a great idea. Like in these big high powered superhero battles, you're just like blowing someone through a wall or some shit. Like I think it works really well. Like you'll often see them smash each other into various different locations. I think that's a fun, very natural idea for a superhero fighter. The move to 4v4 is like, I was literally the other day thinking, man, like where else could they go with a tag game, like a 4v4? Like a lot of people are doing 2v2 now. 4v4? I mean, that just feels like a lot. Is that too much? And then they just come out and I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how many buttons you're going to need to control all of that. But man, this game looks pretty. I'm down. I'm super down. Look, I love Marvel Comics. I don't talk about it very much, but I really do love Marvel characters. I've got like a couple anthology big ass volumes behind me of like Iron Man and Adam Warlock and stuff like that. And I have a lot of affection for many of these characters, and the idea of a pure Marvel fighting game is honestly pretty appealing to like some people are still hung up on like, but I wanted versus Capcom. Genuinely, I'll be real. I think like, okay, if there was a Marvel versus Capcom 4, it would be sick. I won't lie. But like, I would almost rather at this point just do like two separate games. Like have an entirely Marvel fighting game, and then like some kind of Capcom All Stars. Oh, we're going to talk about Capcom All Stars later. Because okay, back when many Taigen moons ago, I made a video on the side channel, which was just a little fun thing of how I would fill out a theoretical Marvel vs. Capcom 4 roster. There was this template that was floating around on the interwebs, and it had something like 60 characters or something like that, and like total. And that's a lot of characters, right? That's a lot of characters for even a fighting game, like a tag fighter with multiple seasons of DLC. That's a lot of characters. And even then, I found myself going, man, it would be nice if I could fit this person in here. I'd really want this character in here. Oh man, would I really want them? But I have to make cuts. Even with like a 30 and 30, evenly splitting the representation, even with like a 30 and 30 setup, like right, I still found myself feeling the pain points of needing extra slots. Oh man, I just wish I had more slots. I wish I just had infinite slots. And I just had this feeling like, if this was just a Capcom All-Stars game, oh my god, you'd just be able to put in every motherfucker you'd want. You get all the staples. You would get all the need to be there characters. You could get some of the like nice fan favorites. You could get some of the weirdo picks. You could get some of the more like the obscure stuff. You could have fucking Servbot in there. Oh my god, you'd have so much freedom. And then with the Marvel game, same thing. Oh, you could get all the guys who have to be there, like the core Avengers. You get the X-Men. You could have multiple Spider-Man characters, actually, that aren't just Spider-Man and Venom. You could do, like, Green Goblin. I'd love to have a playable Green Goblin. Seems like it would be such a cool moveset. You could give him, like, a Morrigan hover dash. That would be funny. You could you could actually include all of the Fantastic Four. You could have a weird character. You could have fucking Howard the Duck in there. Probably not Howard the Duck, realistically. But you could go there, right? You could have a really cool spread of characters, and I think you could satisfy most people, right? Look at the Marvel Rivals roster. How many characters are in Marvel Rivals right now, as of June 2025? Roster size. 39 characters as of May. Okay. And it launched with 33. And I mean, that launch roster was really nice, right? 39 characters, like about 40 characters And you look at the Marvel Rivals roster, maybe change a character here or there. Obviously, maybe someone who would fit well in a team shooter might not be that exciting in like a fighting game. I don't know if Jeff the Shark would be playable. I'm sorry, he can show up, but Jeff could be in the background like the hype dog in Blaze Blue. That would be awesome, actually. Just like shift a couple characters around. You'd be like, man, this would be a great fighting game roster. And that's with like 40 characters. Imagine 60 characters. And if you're making a 4v4 fighting game, I mean, you've got to have quite a few characters, right? Like you gotta have a big roster. The more characters you allow on a team, the more characters you need on the roster, just for variety's sake, right? I mean, it's like, God, if you launch, I mean, that's what the thing with 2XKO is that, like, if you have 4 distinct, if both sides in 2XKO are playing distinct characters, there's like 40% of the roster is on screen at any given time. So, yeah, it would. I just think it would be cool to see those split up. So I'm actually happy to just see a solo Marvel fighting game. I love Arc System Works. I'm always going to be an Arc Sys fanboy. So I'm obviously excited to see what they're going to do. However, I can't wait for this game to come out. People are going to be psyched on it for a month or two, and then they're going to start complaining about insane Arc Sys balancing, because it's inescapable. It was so fun to watch. It's been so fun, genuinely, to watch people come into Guilty Gear with Strive and then be like, what the fuck are these? Why would you give Nagaryuki an overhead that he can delay off of one of his best round start options? What? And just go, oh no, yeah, that Arc Sys just does shit like that all the time. They're just on another planet sometimes. I can't wait for that. So Tokon just totally just tossed a grenade into the fighting game community conversation. And there's been a lot of jokes about like people are going to play this over 2XKO. Genuinely, I think that both games will benefit from each other. I think that they have notably different appeals between just like art style, the properties that they are representing, the gameplay style. 2v2 versus 4v4 is very different. It's good. We don't know what 4v4 is like yet, but I guarantee you it'll be very different. I think there's a much more likely possibility, not that one is going to kill the other, but that people are going to get into one, and then someone's going to start playing 2XKO, and they're going to go for free, and they're going to go, oh man, this is actually really cool. I think I like these games. Oh, there's a lot of fighting games that are this tag style. Oh, there's that really cool Marvel one. Maybe I'll check that out. 4v4? That's crazy. And then they're going to go pick up Tokon. On the other side, there'll be people who pick up Tokon because they're like, holy shit, crazy Marvel anime shit. And then they're going to go, oh, wow, these games are really fun, actually. I think I like this tag thing a lot. Hey, there's a free-to-play fighting game that's like also a tag fighter. How neat. Let me check that out. I don't even have to pay money for it. I think that that's more likely how this stuff is going to work out. And then Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact, which, to be honest, I don't want to be mean, but didn't have a chance. I'm sorry, Aiding. It's just, you're making a niche budget game that that will be appreciated by a niche audience. I will see people playing it at locals and swear by it. It will be okay. What JoJo All-Star Battle R is to me, Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact will be to other people. So I can't judge too hard. I can't be too mean, but I do understand why Asper, JoJo All-Star Batman and Robin did not, set the world on fire. But I will continue rally its praises. Okay, then I'm done with Tokon. I could go into the gritty detail of like, oh, what is it gonna play like? Because they said some shit about you could maybe play they implied you could play as a solo character, and it's like, is that like the ratio system like from Skullgirls or something, which I can't believe more tag games haven't done. It's such a good idea. Like, maybe they just meant something else. Japanese devs always talk weird. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's translation. I just think that they talk weird. I've read so many interviews with Japanese game developers, and they just fucking phrase things in this weird way. I don't know why. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of Japanese devs and Capcom, just Street Fighter 6 Season 3, because that was at the Summer Games Fest, and I went, what? So, they're carrying on in this tradition now of just announcing every character in the season pass at the beginning, as soon as they reveal it, right? Which I think is good. Lets you know what you're getting into. It lets you make a more informed decision about whether or not you want to buy it. Granted, if there is even, I would say that if there's even if the entirety of a season pass is not already revealed, and there's a chance that like you think you'll regret it based off of stuff that isn't yet revealed, I would say just be smarter with your money and like maybe don't buy it. But the fact that they reveal it all at the beginning, and that's kind of the new trend in it with more fighting game devs, does let you make a more informed decision sooner, which honestly might actually get them more sales in the long run. I don't know how many people are discerning and will actually hold off until, let's say, there's a character they really want in the pass. Yes, so they did one of these trailers. Very funny one. They got Kenny Omega, who is a pro wrestler, who's a big in that kind of funny pro wrestlers who are really into anime and video games kind of Venn diagram cross section. He's cool. And it's him in like a locker room, and he's looking into the mirror, and it's him dressed as different characters in the season pass. He like looks into the mirror and he's Alex, and I was like, what? Wait, whoa, what? Okay, so the characters in the season pass and what I think of them and what I think are cool and which aren't. And what I find interesting. Okay, Alex, Sea Viper, Sagat, Ingrid. Okay, okay. So the two clear winners to me out of this season pass are easily Sagat and Sea Viper. Sagat, I think, is of the four Heavenly Kings, the one I would have most wanted to see back over Bison. To be honest, they had to sell me on Bison by doing, I thought, a very cool implementation of him. Like the idea, I remember when Bison got leaked, or at least just the list, and I was like, don't do Bison. But the way that they actually implemented him, the new design, the new kind of personality, and how he's kind of like a zombie, the new moveset especially, I find him very fun. Like, I played Bison in SF6. They successfully sold me on reintroducing the character. They've been actually really good at doing that in SF6, of actually selling me on, okay, you actually made this character cool. Sagat is the one that I would have said even before Bison, I would have rather had Sagat back. Like, I'm over Bison, but Sagat is first of all, I just think he's super cool. He's sort of, okay, not a perfect analogy, but he's kind of like the Vegeta of Street Fighter. He's the rival character, and he's not like Ryu's friend or anything, but he's been on, like, I would say probably the most interesting character arc in Street Fighter. He actually has a very, I would say that one of the most interesting storylines, going from this, his whole deal is that at the start he fights for pride and ego, and he fights to like have power over other people and assert himself, and he's this very like kill or be killed dominating person, and he expresses that through violence and fighting and stuff like that. And he's the champion. He's fucking 7.5 feet tall, and then he gets beaten for the first time by Ryu. this like young upstart, and he fucking never lets it go. He becomes super driven by revenge, and then the problem is that he keeps losing. He rematches Ryu, he loses again. And then his apprentice Adon is like, Sagat, yeah, you seem like kind of ass, dude. You seem washed up. So they fight, and Adon wins. Sagat loses again. And he's just like, completely lost. He defined his entire person by how dominant and powerful and undefeated he was. And now he's been defeated 3 times. He's been humiliated 3 times. Thrice. And it's like, where does he go from here? And he's kind of been on this slow journey of sort of understanding why Ryu fights. Ryu fights for self-mastery, not pride. So Sagat is kind of on this beginning steps. The last time we saw him, these beginning steps of this journey. But in his Street Fighter V arcade mode, for just a second, he feels this burning, and it's the Satsui no Hado. For the first time, he feels the call of the Satsui no Hado, the evil energy, which is super cool because the only characters who have ever really tapped into that are Ryu and Akuma. Bison, like, I think like the psycho power is sort of like Satsui no Hado, so you could maybe extend it to that. But really, like, the specific Satsui no Hado has just been a Ryu and Akuma thing. And like all of their little alternate forms and stuff like that. So Sagat feeling it is cool. Number one, just because it's cool to see another character have that. But also, I think it's actually a pretty... I can't think of many other dynamics like this in fiction, unless I'm wrong. So like Ryu has the classic, he's the honorable warrior who feels the temptation to darkness, you know? I don't know, Luke Skywalker, right? There's many characters who have that kind of, many protagonist characters who have that kind of, they're good and noble, but they have this dark thing that's tempting them and they got to stay on the right path. Sagat is actually kind of interesting to do that with because he's the villain. He starts out as a villain, as an asshole, and then he's actually trying to better himself. So the Satsui no Hado isn't instead of like with Ryu, it's this pull to like give in to this other lifestyle or this other mindset perspective. For Sagat, it's actually representing going back to his old ways. It's actually regressing. So it's like a actually pretty cool usage of that. What would you call it? Plot element? Mechanic? Oh God, I don't want to say plot mechanic. That's so dumb. But that element of the plot, right? This concept, the concept of the Satsui no Hado as a way to kind of symbolize regression to a prior mindset. Or, you know, that's his choice, regression or growth. And that's kind of a really cool struggle to give to a character. Plus, Sagat's just really cool. I just think he's really neat. I love Muay Thai fighters. I think it's a very cool fighting style. I just love how he's just this massive, tall guy. His design, his classic design is so classic. It's a perfect, like, simple but super memorable design that a lot of the early Street Fighter characters really tapped into as well. Just massive, tall guy. Very few defining features. He's got like the bald head and the butt chin, and then he's got the scar and the eye patch. And other than that, he's just wearing like shorts. He's just wearing like Muay Thai shorts. He's got the arm and leg wraps that kind of give a little bit of a contrast on his limbs. He's just such a good looking character. And they add like the little, you know, in different games, he gets the different little accoutrements to kind of make him a little different looking and stuff like that. 5 gave him the kind of tattered cape sort of thing. Here he's got like a fur vest or something. His classic outfit's gonna go hard though. I know that. So yeah, it's cool to see Sagat. I'm happy to have him back. I think everyone's pretty happy with that. Sea Viper as well. Probably not as classic or iconic of a character as Sagat. She only debuted in Street Fighter 4, and she was only really in that one game. I don't remember if she was in... Well, she was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 I don't remember if she was in Cross Tekken, but she was probably most notable for her SF4 appearance. Sea Viper is really cool. Definitely, like, story-wise, not going as deep as Sagat. She's a cool secret agent lady. That's her deal. She has a really neat, if you don't know anything about Sea Viper, she has a really cool, simple, but very deep moveset. It's just like simple, like, tools, but they can be used in a variety of different ways because she can basically feint all of her special moves. I don't know all of them. A lot of them. Like, at least 2 of them, I think. Which ones can she feint? I don't remember. Essentially, Sea Viper has this sort of... She's got like a dash attack thing. She has these fire kicks that can kind of anti-air, and she can use them in the air to do these sorts of ambiguous cross-up things. And she has this ground pound move, the Seismo Impact, probably the most defining move in her kit, because she can feint it, and then essentially she can basically feint it and use that to cancel moves into other stuff. And that's where a lot of her extremely high execution nonsense comes in. Like, she is the hand cramp character of SF4. She was infamous for being the most technically demanding character to play. And when you see a really good Sea Viper, it's really cool looking because they're just doing shit. They're just doing shit super fast. You can't even fathom how fast they're, like, canceling into Seismo, into feint, into, like, she has a super jump that I think she can also cancel other stuff into, and she can do, like, these instant... If you're good enough with your hands, you could do, like, instant cross-up stuff. It's super crazy. She's super neat. She has a cool design. I really dig, we don't have the full renders yet, but I really dig what we've seen of her new design. So Sea Viper is really cool. Another sort of more of an underground fan favorite. A little bit more on that end, just because she hasn't been seen in so long, right? Alex is fine. Some people really dig Alex. I'm not particularly an Alex guy. I think he's cool, I think he is in that funny category of would-be Aryan replacements for Ryu, who were not very well liked in their initial games and then became more well liked in following games, which is weird that it happened twice. Yeah, I don't know. It's Alex. I was literally talking to a friend yesterday about Alex and how he was mentioning to me how Alex has, like, the dumbest, simplest playstyle in SF5, where he's just forward heavy punch the character. Capcom has never known what to do with Alex, but hopefully in fleshing out his moveset, as all of the SF6 characters have had done to them, they're able to find something kind of interesting and unique. He can be cool, He can be cool. He's like forward heavy punch and lariat the character. Alex can be cool. I'm just, like, not a huge Alex guy. And then Ingrid. So, little backstory. I actually saw this roster get leaked. I saw this season get leaked in text form. Again, just the names. And I was reading the names to myself. I remember reading it for the first time, and it was like, Alex, yeah, sure. Sagat, yeah, sure. Sea Viper, oh yeah, no, cool. Ingrid, oh, okay, this is fake. This is a fake list. This is someone's freak pick. Someone's trying to start a rumor, and they're trying to see what they can get away with. Because they would never put Ingrid in game as an actual character. Ingrid is like a background character, or she appears as alternate costumes, as a reference in alt costumes, right? But no, the Ingrid is real, and she will hurt you eventually. in like a year when she comes out. So for anyone who doesn't know, way back in the 2000 somethings, Capcom was going to make a little game called Capcom All Stars. You know how I talked earlier about the theoretical big Capcom crossover fighting game? That was in development. It was called Capcom All Stars. For one reason or another, the project just kind of fell through. And it was eventually... Okay, sorry. Let's stick with All Stars for the moment. So Capcom All Stars, it was going to be a big Capcom crossover game. Actually, what it technically was going to be the first fighting game appearance of Mike Hagar. Fun fact. And a pretty normal thing, at least at that time. I feel like it's less common now. But at that time, they did that. They were going to do that thing where you have a big crossover, but in order to not like play favorites with who the main quote unquote character is, or the main franchise or whatever is being represented, they come up with like a neutral third party original character or set of characters, like all the original characters in Kingdom Hearts, or what is it, those anime people from Project Cross Zone or something like that. A lot of games and crossover things do this. The Persona Q games have some original people, right? And Capcom All Stars was going to do this, CAS, let's call it, with these 3 original characters who were like anti-terrorists or something. They were like counter-terrorists or something. One of them was Ingrid, who was like a lady or whatever. Capcom All Stars falls through for one reason or another, and in order to salvage some of the project or something, Capcom basically, I think Capcom had like promised a new fighting game to their shareholders or something. It's probably something like that. They were basically like, okay, make a new game. You have like 6 months. So the fighting game division scrambles and throws together Capcom Fighting Evolution, also known as Capcom Fighting Jam in Japan. It is the worst fighting game they have ever made, bar none, the worst. You can go watch. There are many videos on Capcom Fighting Evolution. It is really funny. It's like a so bad it's funny game. I don't know if like to most people, but at least to fighting game fans, or especially Capcom fighting game fans, CFE is just a total clusterfuck. It is just ripping sprite rips. It's a 2D game now. It's not 3D. Sprite rips. None of the characters play well. The game feels bad. The backgrounds are literally just populated with characters who were literally cut out of concept art, and sometimes brutishly animated. Very funny. And in the middle of all of these rips of sprites from other Capcom games, there was technically one original new character, playable character, Ingrid. She was someone's favorite. Someone on the team liked her enough to recreate her in their budget game. She's actually just like a sort of like a re-sprite of Karin from the Alpha games in gameplay. Like, I think she has a couple unique moves, but a lot of her stuff is just traced over Karin sprites. She then went on to appear in Alpha 3 Max, I think. There's like a billion versions of Street Fighter Alpha 3, and they just added so many random characters to it. Like Yun is in there, ripped directly from Third Strike. Ingrid was one of them, and I think she has the same moveset. I'm pretty sure. And so the character, so you're like, okay, so how does this character fit into Street Fighter? And the answer is like, she really doesn't. The only true Street Fighter game she's in is that one port of Alpha 3. And in that game, her story mode is basically a non-canon joke ending where she drops an orbital laser strike on Bison. Okay, she's like a princess from another dimension or something like that. Like, my first question was, is Ingrid even canon to Street Fighter? Like, is she a real character, or it's just some kind of weird floating Capcom character who's just even like Ruby Heart is more of a character with her own game. So a mix of emotions on this. There is a contingent of people who just hate Ingrid for seemingly no reason. I think there's actually a couple reasons. There's actually an interesting video by a YouTuber named Sugar Punch Design Works, and I think it's called like characters who quote unquote ruined their games. Not from like a gameplay perspective, but like this character represents when this shit went downhill. And it's like, you notice that, hang on, let me like look up that video. It's from a while ago. But you notice with all the characters in that video. Oh man, am I gonna find it? Am I gonna find it? Oh my god, how old is this video? I'm literally gonna pause to find it. Right, okay, yeah. It's called Did These Characters Ruin Their Games? And like did these characters ruin fighting games? And you notice all of them are like cute, vaguely like, what would I even call that? It's not like really Lolita. Oh my god, Ingrid's the first one. Not really like Lolita fashion, but like kind of cute, sort of maybe you'd call it Lolita adjacent fashion with some kind of cute sort of high fashion outfit, something like that, that just get this huge hate boner. And part of me is, I feel like that's just, I think there's kind of like a misogyny thing. That's what I sort of feel like there's this contingent of guys who play fighting games and they're cool with women if they're hot or tough. Those are like the two things that women can be. But if a girl is like cute and girly, they're like, what the fuck? Ugh, this doesn't appeal to me. I fucking hate it. There's a lot of men like that, actually. And I think Ingrid absorbed some of that just for being like a sort of cutesy looking girl who didn't particularly appeal to, I don't know, maybe like a certain honestly, she's a kind of anime design that appeals to certain otaku type guys, but I don't know. Like, you know what I'm talking. I feel like you know in your mind what I'm talking about. So I'll be lazy and won't explain it. Also, there's just that weird thing that happens where a character is considered shit if they debuted in something that was shit, even if they weren't particularly like the reason for it being bad. Like, I think it's weird. I ran into people sort of recently who claimed that a lot of people hate Axel from Mega Man X. And that is just super weird to me, because I actually like Axel quite a bit. And I have seen a lot of positive feelings for the character. Axel debuted in one of the worst games in the series, X7, but was not the reason that game was bad. So, like, I don't have a problem with him. And when he shows up in other stuff, I go, cool, Axel. I like Axel. Same thing with Ingrid. Ingrid is not, like, the reason Capcom Fighting Evolution was bad. She was just there and a part of it and the one unique thing about it. So I don't know why there's this guilt by association with certain characters. That's just certain characters get. I can't say I'm very excited for Ingrid. I don't particularly like her. I think she's sort of boring. I found out there's a lot more Ingrid likers than I previously knew of. If you go on social media, you'll find at least to me, shocking amount of love for Ingrid right now, and like fan art and stuff. But I can't say I'm very excited for her. I'm just waiting on Dudley. I guess I'll play Bison in the meantime. So that was the season 3 thing. Just a lot of like weird history. A lot of weird history and backstory going on there. And then finally, because it literally just got announced, I think today or yesterday, I forget. There was the Xbox game showcase. And that was, I didn't pay attention to that. I usually just look up stuff that I'm going to be interested in later on. That was a weird way to phrase it. I usually just look up everything that was announced after the fact and then just watch trailers that interest me. So the Xbox game showcase happened, and this is going to be a very minor note, but they showed off Invincible Versus, a new 3v3 tag fighter starring the characters from Invincible. So the first thing my first reaction was, oh really? Huh. My second reaction was another tag fighter. Like just back to back, right? There's so many tag fighters, it feels like all of a sudden. You know what this is? I'm talking too much. You know what this is? 2 to 3 years ago, a bunch of people said, you know what? There haven't been a lot of tag fighters in a while. We should make some. Well, let's make a tag fighter. And now we are seeing the fruits of their labor all dropping at the same time. So a lot of tag fighters. We don't know that much about the Invincible game, Invincible Versus, yet. Personally, I don't really care about this. I have never read nor watched Invincible. The game itself doesn't look particularly interesting. I'm going to be slightly mean here just to describe my reaction. But a lot of the, I think when you put these character designs in the context of a fighting game, they lose a lot of luster for me. At least of the ones that were shown off. Mainly that they are very stock looking. Which I get that Invincible, I think in some way is supposed to be sort of like... Isn't the idea it's some kind... I am just talking... I am talking nonsense about stuff I know nothing about. Back me up if I'm correct. Or correct me if I'm wrong. I get kind of like... deconstruction. A different take on superheroes from Invincible. I don't know how accurate that is, but it makes kind of sense. It kind of makes sense to me that the characters would look like that if they're sort of meant to portray, or if they're meant to kind of represent certain superhero concept, like meta concepts of superhero comics. In a fighting game, they kind of look like clip art of a superhero. And I find them much less interesting. Like 3 of the characters shown off, although not in gameplay, not all of them in gameplay, are literally just people wearing white suits. And the other 3 characters are people wearing different colored suits that are like 2 or 3 colors maybe. And there's not like I don't know, they're just... I couldn't imagine any of okay, I think that's the thing. That's the difference between this and like the Marvel Tokon. I look at Invincible characters, and I actually don't say this as a criticism of Invincible because the context is so different. But I look at the Invincible characters, and I think none of these guys could carry their own books based off of visuals alone. Like Iron Man can carry his own book and has a distinctive look that you could put on a cover. Fucking Miss Marvel has a distinctive look that you can put on a cover. The pink girl and the, what is he, like orange and what else? I don't even remember what he looks like. He's like orange or something. The orange guy. These people are not getting their own comic books, which is like, that's fine in the context of Invincible, because it's not meant to be it's just like one book. It's just a single self-contained series. I'm just explaining, like, this is the disconnect. So I know a lot of people really like Invincible. It's probably exciting for them. It is cool that this is actually being worked on. My first thought was, who are the developers, actually? Sorry. This would have been my third thought in chronology. I was thinking, who are the developers behind this, especially because it's Microsoft, right? Microsoft, the Xbox Game Showcase. So is this just like a random studio, or is this like Double Helix or Iron Galaxy, like the devs, which were the dev teams that worked on Killer Instinct 2013? And it turns out, yeah, sort of. It is actually a new developer, sort of, not super new, but it is made up of many members of the same team who worked on Killer Instinct 2013 at Double Helix. Double Helix did the launch and I think first season of KI 2013. So I guess it just kind of fell into their lap, and they were like, yeah, let's make another fighting game. The things worked out. Microsoft has, I mean, they've had this issue, sort of one of Xbox's many issues is, hey man, you guys should make a new KI. It's like a fighting game series that has a classic appeal. It's a really beloved game. The reboot is especially beloved in the fighting game community, so you have like a built-in excitement for it with a hardcore audience. You could make a new KI. The problem is finding a developer who has the expertise and the time and literally the schedule to make a fighting game. Which a fighting game, it's not just like, oh, we'll have a 2-year development cycle. It's more like, yeah, we're gonna have like an 8-year development cycle, because it's gonna be like, that's development plus post-launch support and multiple seasons. And KI 2013 got a lot of content over the years. It got like a whole campaign mode and stuff. So it's nice that they're getting back together. They're getting the band back together a little bit to make a new fighting game. It's a tag-based fighter again, which, why? I don't know. Sure. It is also, from the looks of it, going to be a little gorier, which there's not a lot of gory fighting games that aren't Mortal Kombat on the market, so that's kind of neat. Something that just pushes violence a little bit. It feels like you've really got like, it's very binary, where you are either like very how do I say it, very bloodless Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear, stuff like that. And then you've got Mortal Kombat, the most violent thing you've ever seen in your whole life. And there isn't much of an in-between. I know that in the Invincible, the show, has a fair amount of gore in it, but not like super, it's not like the main appeal of the show. So I'm imagining that this game will probably have, some gore, some battle damage, and stuff like that. I mean, the trailer has gore in it. There's a guy who gets fucking misted in his car at the very start. So it'll be I don't know, maybe kind of fun to have something on the market that's not like that isn't made for fatality compilations. Ooh. Yeah, I said it. That's Invincible Versus. I just wanted to bring it up because, God, it is so weird that there are so many tag fighters getting announced, coming out all the time. Oh my God. That was a lot of announcement stuff to get through. Hey, let's talk about something that I've been playing over the past couple days. I've been busy recently since I put that video out. I just had a lot of stuff to do. I did a live stream. I was on like 2 live streams in one day. I visited, I hung out with people. I've been having a busy time. So game playing, I haven't had all the time in the world to play games. But I did make a new mistake, which was to download Guild Wars 2. So, why did this happen? To be honest, I don't know why. I think that I was okay. So Guild Wars 2 is a game that when was it when it came out? 2012. I'm gonna be so right on this. I want to look so cool. Show me 2012. Oh, August 28th, 2012. Let's go. So Guild Wars 2 is a game that I have always heard about in the background. I remember it being very well received on launch. And then I just kind of like, I was not for the longest time an MMO player. I didn't really get into MMOs till like 2021, I think. That was when I started playing FF14. And then I was like, oh, I actually dig this genre in a lot of ways. Let me check it out. And now I've got a couple of videos on my channel about dead MMOs and stuff like that. Which are honestly those videos are really fun to make, but they do terrible in views. I think it's because I dedicated myself to like a naming scheme that I find very fun, but doesn't do that well with the spirits. Anyway, it's always just been this game that's kind of looming in the background that I've always heard. Every time I hear about it, people are like, yeah, Guild Wars 2, that's a great game. It's a good game. It's got great combat. It's got a cool world. It just got great systems. And I've just never checked it out. It's never been like the game at the forefront. It's just been like the kind of slow and steady title hanging around in the back. And for whatever reason, I literally cannot remember why. I decided to check it out. I think maybe I was just looking. I think I was thinking about it recently because I was so curious. Because I like Trents, or what are they? Treants? Trent. I don't know how it's tree people. I think tree people are cool. I think like Earth elemental theme stuff is cool, like Earth nature stuff. And I'm like, man, I was like, man, there's not a lot of game that lets you play as like plant people or tree people. And Guild Wars 2 has a plant people species called the Sylvari. So that was like a few months ago, and then randomly I just decided to check out like, what do the classes do in Guild Wars 2? And Guild Wars 2 has some cool classes. And it made I watched a video that was really good, actually. Actually, let me like literally, I'm actually going to recommend Guild Wars 2 classes. I'm actually going to recommend it because it was a really good video. Oh, let me find it again. I'm literally going to pause again to find another video. Okay, I found the video. It was called Which Class Should You Play? Guild Wars 2 Best Professions by a YouTuber named Valun. And I just clicked on it at random, and it was like probably one of the best written new player class guide things I've ever watched. Like his perspective is exactly perfect for what it's not filled with like a bunch of gobbledygook jargon. It's a pretty concise explanation of the core things that each class and like spec does, and like what is their appeal, which is something that I think a lot of them miss. I think a lot of guides miss of like, why would you want to play this? So I watched this video. It was great, and it made Rangers look really cool. So I decided to download the game. It's free to play, and I'm about maybe 5 hours into it. So very, very early impressions. How is it hitting me first off? Yep. This is a pretty good action MMO RPG thing. It's fun. Mind you, I have to take this with a slight grain of salt, which is that I am playing through content that was released in 2012, probably designed in like 2006 or something, or at least like the game probably started development in 2006. I'm playing content that was technically developed before I was even in middle school. So when I was in elementary school. So the age is definitely something to take into account, but even with that being said, I think that it's pretty fun, mostly just the fact that it plays very well at a basic level. The content isn't like the most crazy thing ever. It's not really fetch quests. It's more like just kind of like, actually there's the at least the early leveling has had a lot of story based quests. There is no, as far as I can tell at the moment, they haven't introduced any kind of large overarching narrative. It's actually a personal storyline that's based off of something that your character wants to do. There is a little bit of I would say railroading in the RPGing aspect of it, or the role-playing aspect of it, which is that your character is voiced. I don't think you have a choice of your voice. Or if it is, it's not displayed as such. It's some other like character trait. So, you know, there was definitely like a big train maybe 10 years ago for having fully voiced MMOs. And I'm cool with like certain important things being voiced. I'm cool with that. But I'm not always a fan of everything being voiced, and also of my character having a voice. I can go back and forth on it. I don't super mind it. It's just the way that the game is. To my taste, it's fine. Also, not literally everything is voiced. Some things are just through text boxes and stuff like that. But a lot of things are voiced. So if you like that, it does feel like that effort has been put in to get people in the booth. How does the game actually play that makes it so interesting? So Guild Wars 2 has some really cool classes. It's got some really cool classes. And it ranges from stuff like there's like an elementalist who switches between essentially different stances with different elemental based attacks, and I think they can like combine some other stuff and put down fields that can then affect enemies and stuff like that. There's like a necromancer who they pay like health costs, and they get this ultimate ability that gives them essentially like an extra life bar to just like rip through. The Mesmer is one of the coolest sounding classes. They use like illusions and stuff, so they like teleport and create body doubles and like phantom swords and stuff like that. Very cool. The Ranger, which is the class that I've been playing, is basically the pet class. And what drew me to it in the first place is that, like, yeah, you get... Well, actually, okay. You don't just get a bow and arrow. You get a lot of stuff. I'll explain that in a second. Their main gimmick, or their appeal, is that you get a pet companion who follows you around, and you can give a couple different commands. But you can... There is a progression element to the pets, in that you can collect more of them by going out into the world and literally taming certain animals. Off of them, they're on a list, right? It's not just like everything. It's not just every animal in the world. But there's like 30 something at least different pets that you can tame, and each of them have their own movesets. You get like an entire different moveset for being underwater, and your pet does too. And there are underwater pets. You can have a shark companion. Come on, man. I can't say no to a class that lets me get a shark companion. So I've been playing that. And when I said that you get a lot of different stuff, of course you're a ranger, so you got a bow. You got bows and arrows. But your moveset, it basically uses hotkey combat, but movesets are decided by what weapon type you're using. So bows have a moveset, swords have their own moveset, hammers have their own moveset, daggers have their own moveset, and I'm sure the magical stuff has its own whole suite of different stuff. I don't know how the magic stuff works. And when I say action, I mean that there is like a dodge button. There's a dodge button, and there's like an auto, I would say basic, like the most basic type of attack. So for Ranger, shoot an arrow. And you can have that basically set to you can set that to just automatically repeat. It will loop whenever it's off cooldown. or its cooldown finishes by the time you're done casting it. So you can basically just do it over and over until the animation's over. or it loops. It starts up as soon as the animation. You know what I'm saying? It automatically happens. And then you've got other stuff like I can shoot a bunch of arrows. I can shoot an arrow that turns me invisible. I can shoot an AoE arrow. I can shoot an arrow that knocks the opponent back. And then you've got, so that's like bound per weapon, right? And as you level up, I mean, as soon as you actually don't have to even unlock like weapon skills. Like if you're a certain level, like really fast, I think by like level 10 at the very least, or at the very most, you get access to all 5 of a weapon's attacks for every weapon that you pick up that is compatible with your class. Not every class can use every weapon. But if you have all 5, slots essentially unlocked, I can switch to a sword and I will have all the sword moves. I can switch to something else. I'll have all the moves of that are available to me. That's the distinction of actually like the warrior class is their weapon masters, which is actually a very cool. I think that's a very cool way. Like I feel like warriors tend to be very stock standard sort of fighters, but the idea of them actually being highly flexible in many different weapons, making them these weapon master characters, is a pretty cool way of distinguishing them and actually making them sound kind of cool. Oh, they get to use a really wide variety of movesets, potentially for different situations or something. You can also have multiple. You can do weapon swapping. There is weapon switching in this game. I believe you can have up to 2 that you can switch between. So rangers can have bows, swords. I don't know what else they can have. Again, I'm not that deep into the game. But you can have like more weapons than just a bow as a ranger, which is neat because in my mind, a cool ranger, I'm a little bummed when rangers get reduced down to bow and arrow, because rangers, I think of them more as being like multi-purpose sort of like hunters or scouts or something. Or, I mean, the definition is that they're people who range over the land. And like, yeah, that includes maybe having a bow and arrow. But also like other short swords or different magical spells and stuff like that. Like it feels like a little disappointing when they're reduced down to bow and arrow. Like that doesn't really capture the fantasy of being a ranger, which to me is a cool idea that's just not very well captured by a lot of games. But Guild Wars has some cool implementations of that. So most of the early game is just kind of like going through your race's starting area, which is pretty big as far as I can tell. And it's mostly interconnected. There's like one loading screen that I have encountered. But for the most part, it's all kind of like a pretty seamless experience across a pretty cool looking area. I'm a tree people. I'm a plant person. So I start off in the big lush jungle with all this interesting, these giant plants and like stems that are as big as trees and stuff like that. And these big flowers and waterways, and very pretty. Definitely has a nice, a very well-aged art style, even for being released in 2012. And it's able to run on my laptop, which is not the most powerful gaming device in the world, but and it still looks pretty good and it runs pretty well. Although it does make my laptop very hot after like 30 minutes. I've mostly just been kind of getting along because doing stuff in the game is fun. I really like exploring. It feels like there are so many. Exploring is really fun, which is like the most important part of an MMO to me. Exploring, but really the world. I would say the most important part of an MMO is the world. It's like basically the entire appeal of the genre. Of course, there's people who are going to be more into the mechanics, some people who are going to be more into the lore or the storytelling. And I would say I lean more on the mechanical side. But really, to me, my favorite part of role-playing games, if we're going to talk about actual role-playing and not like the weird kind of version of what role-playing means in like a game design sense, which that's a whole other topic. For me, I like having a character who can do especially like cool, flavorful things that represent the character, whether that be a class or a class list system. I like being able to mechanically like do functions in the world that make me kind of feel like a ranger or a paladin or a ninja, in FF14. I love ninjas. I love ninjas in FF14 because they are so, it's like my favorite class. Because they are so, I feel like a damn ninja when I'm doing my ninjutsus. I'm doing my Naruto hand signs and crafting different ninjutsu spells and learning the patterns and stuff is so cool. It's such a cool experience, and I get to go do cool ninja shit. To me, that's like the most satisfying part of role playing. This was talking about the world. I like the world. There hasn't been any like big overarching storyline or conflict set up yet. It's all just very personal stuff, which is more of an excuse to get acquainted with, it's like an introduction. It feels kind of like a prologue where I'm getting introduced to the world, but specifically my character's little slice of it. The culture of the Sylvari. This game does a lot of little world building things really well. I want to talk about it. So, for one, the first thing that pops out to me is little dialogue barks. As you'll be walking around, one of the ways in which having so many things be voiced works in its benefit is that you will just absorb casual conversations between NPCs as you're walking around. Like I'm inspecting some kind of old castle that's being repurposed for something else, and there's a bunch of people working in it, and you'll just hear a conversation between two people about their day. One guy's complaining about something, and then they drop like a couple little things that reference other stuff, and you don't know exactly what it means, but you can kind of tell from context. You're just learning little things about the world. There's like a market that I stopped at, and I overheard an NPC conversation where someone asked, it's when you get a little further from the Sylvari home, like, tree thing. And there's like a couple other races. There's like frog people. There's like bird Tengu people, stuff like that. And you just hear this little conversation between these non-Sylvari. And one of them's like, oh yeah, how do you like living in the area? And the other one says, oh, they're good. The Sylvari are good neighbors, but they ask too many questions. And just from that, you get all of these little details. Like maybe this person, first of all, like a little detail about how this character, where they are at their life. They've been in a sort of new place for a little while. They're getting acquainted with it. They're a bit of an outsider, and they have their own thoughts on the local people, and they like them, but maybe they don't like. Maybe this character is doing sort of shady business, or they're a little underhanded. And maybe the Sylvari are a little more innocent or good-natured compared to maybe the culture they come from or the area they come from, and they're or maybe just themselves, not even on like a cultural level, but on an individual level, and they don't quite appreciate. They're like, yeah, they're good people, but that can, for my purposes, that can get a little annoying sometimes. Like that's. Oh, what a fun little detail to just overhear an NPC conversation, just to absorb through that. It's not this, there's been no heavy-handed world building. There's been like almost no exposition delivered to me at all. I think there's been some, but it's mainly just like, hey, here's your race's deal. They're like plant people, and they are born from a dream. There's some like other dimension that they exist in. It's this abstract dimension of dream and thought. And the Sylvari, they aren't born, they're awakened from the dream. They're like, it's actually very cool. They're pulled from the realm of the immaterial or the abstract into the physical, the material. And that's like most of what you get. That's most of the setup that I absorbed, at least. Other cool world building things. Every single area of the map of the world has lots of exploration based completionism things. So, and just like stuff to do. So the most obvious one is quests. The way that side quests are handed out is you walked into an area and you'll see on the map there's a little heart. As soon as you're in the area, you essentially have the option to do a side quest for an NPC. I have a slight gripe with this because you never have to actually talk to the NPC in order to accept or complete the side quest, which for some people might seem like, oh, that's good, you know? Like, oh, well, I don't have to, you know, it's more efficient, it's faster that way. And like, yeah, and it is kind of nice that you can just kind of run into an area, kill some stuff, and then fill up a progress bar, and then be on your way. But like, not actually interacting with the NPCs themselves or really understanding what's going on is, I don't know. I feel like that actually does, it's like a minor strike, but it does kind of detract from the connection you get to the world. Just having to talk to someone feels like it goes a long way towards actually embedding you within. I mean, you're supposed to be living in this community, or you're a part of this community, of this race of people. Maybe for like completing quests, it's fine. City of Heroes has a nice take on this, where you do have to talk to most NPCs in order to start quest lines, but in order to finish an individual objective, you can just do that remotely. Once you're done with it, you don't have to go all the way back to them. So that's like, meh, that's like a minor strike against it. But you are able to just walk into an area and be like, and then just at the top of the screen, the corner of the screen, it'll go, do this. Here's all the things that you can do to help this NPC, this quest giver, basically. And then you run around doing it, and then you get some experience for it, and maybe you level up. And then at the end, you click on a thing to finish it, and you unlock that NPC as a merchant. You're essentially completing like social link quests for every little minor NPC, and doing so, doing their little side mission in the world, unlocks them as a merchant to go talk to and sell items to, which you'll need because their storage space isn't that large, and it is frequently filling up. So, there's that. There are the world events, which I think that every MMO should have. 14 does this. A lot of MMOs do this, I think, nowadays, especially. Which are just, you're running around the world, and in some designated area, a thing will be happening. An elite enemy appears, and you and other players are able to take them down. There's multiple waves. There's all these waves of zombies rising up out of the ocean, and they're coming in waves, and you and other players can come together to defend from the waves. You gotta do like 9 waves of them. Waves from the waves, haha. And doing that nets you, some extra experience and stuff like that. Just stuff that like lets you do things in the world. Then, even more exploration stuff. There are waypoints that you can unlock for fast travel, but you have to visit the waypoint first. You have to actually go there first, which I think is the best way to do it. You need to explore the area before then. And then afterwards, I'm fine with just letting me teleport there. It just takes out a little bit of tedium. Some people don't like that. But yeah, I don't mind it. I won't lie. It saves me time. There are points of interest, which are just little minor locations on the map, and you walk through them, and you get a thing at the top that says like, you've discovered this location, and it's just a tiny little spot there that's like so and so's outlook, or the house of this person, or this clan. And that basically does nothing besides check a thing off the map, but it is like, okay, you're getting acquainted with the area. It implies a larger history and culture to the area, that these are named places that the locals have for this, or maybe it's the official name, whatever. It can imply things about, the history of the place via its name, what people think of it, things that if it belongs to someone in particular, if it was named after someone, just like, again, little things. And then what I think is really nice, what I really like, are vistas. Vistas are the final like exploration completionist thing, and they are actually just locations that you can go to, and then there'll be a little map floating in the air, and typically they're a little out of the way. You usually have to do a little bit of like a parkour thing, just do a little bit of platforming. They call them jumping puzzles, which I think is funny. Like, it's not much of a puzzle. You're doing a little bit of platforming to get to a certain spot, and then there's a little map floating in the air. You interact with it, and you will get, these places are meant to be overlooks where you can see a nice view of the area, and you will get this cutscene of just the camera kind of washing over the location, like a big sweeping establishing shot of different angles that are visible from this height, from this viewpoint. And that stuff's really nice. Again, just stuff to like fill out the world, make it feel lived in, give you a sense of appreciation for the world and its many sights and people. And I think the game really excels at that, in somewhat subtle ways, right? You might not think that it's subtle if there's like a literal check mark that there's a box that you can literally check off of all the points of interest, but those are really tapping into like goal-oriented players, right? So the very intrinsically motivated players, they're going to make their own fun, and maybe someone who's really into exploring is going to go do all that stuff on their own, right? Of their own accord, but maybe the real like numbers goals-oriented player won't. Putting in this system kind of satisfies both sides, because the person who just wants to explore is going to be like, oh, cool, here's a thing that I can actually, that like tracks my progress of exploring the world, and that acts as like a handy checklist for places I haven't seen yet. And the person who's more goal oriented and more, numbers based is going to go, cool, something I can complete. And then in doing so, whoa, now they have more of an appreciation for the world. Why are they actually have to spend time focusing on being in the world. And that's really cool. I think that's a really cool idea to include in an MMO like this, and to sell me on the world. So far, it's working. I'm enjoying the combat. I'm enjoying the world. The visuals are really nice. I just want to explore more. I like doing stuff. Every time I log in, I feel like I'm making progress. There's a little bit of an asterisk, which is that I just so happened to start playing it during a double XP weekend. So I'm like 10 levels ahead of where I should be. I don't really mind, because it's fun to make the number go up. But I do feel like I've been making progress as I've been playing, and it is cool to just make progress really fast. So under normal circumstances, I'd probably be going through it, honestly, maybe not even slower, but just unlocking stuff at a slower rate. It's cool. I am enjoying it. I am seeing obviously I've only seen a few hours of the game, but I'm seeing the seeds of promise that this is a game that the developers actually put a lot of thought and time into, and that they have their priorities straight. They decided what kind of game they wanted to make, and from what I've seen so far, they seem to have focused on implementing stuff that kind of fulfills those goals, right? Making the combat feel responsive. Obviously, there's a little bit of a adjustment period. MMO combat's never going to be the smoothest thing ever, just because of tick rate and stuff like that. That's just how it works. But once you get the hang of it, it feels really good to play. It feels good to move around. The classes seem very distinct. I've heard of people who play like a dozen different characters because they just want to play everything. Because also every single class has 3 different specs. They have like 3 different, your final tier of advancement on your character's like skill tree, essentially. It's basically a skill tree. Is you pick, you basically fill out everything. You do everything up to a certain point, and then you basically go in one of 3 directions. And so there's, There's 9 classes, and each one of them has 3 different specs. So that's like, depending on how distinct each one of them is, that's basically like, 27 different specs to play. 27 different kinds of characters you can play. So that's really cool. And I mean, if there's this level of depth and detail in the starting locations of the other races, hey, I would almost, I'd be interested in that too. They've got like, the races are not like the most interesting thing to me ever. It's like a fantasy game, There's humans, big humans, plant people, like ox, bison sort of people with horns, and little people like, the dwarf Lalafell tiny race, and each of them, if it's as interesting as the Sylvari stuff, then hey, in the future, the idea doesn't like offend me to go check out another character. Like, oh, I wonder what the human starting location is like and all that stuff. It is a bit of a gambit. I remember when I played a bit of the old Star Wars: The Old Republic. That game has a unique starting storyline for each class, and there's like one that is considered amazing. It's like the Spy. Has from what everyone says, an amazing class storyline. And I picked the Bounty Hunter because Bounty Hunters are cool, and I thought, it's fine. It's a fine story, That's the advantage and disadvantage, right? When you play something like 14, everyone pretty much goes through the same storyline, right? A couple minor choices are different here and there. But you get to control that, and the writers have a lot of control over just making sure that's good. With a game like Guild Wars, you got to write and design 4 or 5 different racial storylines. And like, what if one of them is bad? You could as a player completely innocently pick a class that you think is, or a race you think is cool, and then oops, the story's boring. Like, that's what kind of happened in the Old Republic. But so far, I've been having a good experience with it. So from what I have played of the game, I've had a very positive impression of it. So Guild Wars 2, for the moment, first impressions, gets a thumbs up from me. And with that, I think I'm going to draw this one to a close. I've been talking long enough, and I want to eat a cookie. I got a cookie in my room that I want to eat. So I'm going to wrap this up. If you've been listening this far, thank you for listening to me ramble. If you have a question, remember that you can leave one down in the comments below, but please phrase it in the form of a question, because I'm not just going to read your thoughts out loud. Go check out the latest video. It's actually if you're watching this, you listen to this, you probably already have. It's done kind of crazy numbers. It's like 40,000 views at this point in time. Like I woke up from a nap and it was at like 1,000, and I was like, oh, that's a lot faster than I usually get 1,000 views on a video. And then it just kept going up, and the number just kept going up, and the comments just keep coming in, and I'm, oh, okay. And people and you know how I could tell it was doing successful? Because people started going to my other videos. Dude, the TLC video finally hit 1,000 views. Can you believe that? What was it? The Last Great FMV Game was the title of the TLC video. Wow. That was oh my god, that cursed ass video that I had to re-upload because it got fucking struck down by YouTube for nudity. Which I still think I will still say is bullshit. Should not have. I was using it artistically. I was using it in a French way. No, that doesn't help. That could be a pervert way. Nah, okay. Anyway, really glad to have gotten all the support from people, and if you're a new listener, thank you so much as well. I have a Patreon. I have a coffee. The coffee can't be taxed, if you're curious. But the Patreon is, I guess, more steady, and I actually offer benefits there. I cannot legally allow benefits on the coffee unless I want to pay taxes on it, so I'm not going to. So that's why I just use it as like a tip jar, essentially. Anyway, I don't actually know what the next video is going to be right now, so I'm kind of still in my off break week, and then I will hopefully figure out what I want to do and feel motivated again. So thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel and all that. Do I have anything else to say? Nope. Bye.